is Jenny Wells, and I've been doing this with you guys since 2009. I have been endured every one of those suites out there on the levee, every one of them since 2009. You guys have took my things, and now I've got a trailer, and I'm about to lose that too, because I decided to do the right thing. DCR has told me that they can't do anything for me. I have a Section 8 voucher that I cannot use because I do not have 2 years of rental history because I have never had a place. I have never had an opportunity to do anything. You guys dropped me off at a Greyhound bus station when I turned 18 years old and said good luck. With $100. And I've been doing the best I can ever since. I have been in your city for 15 years and homeless for 20. I have gotten nothing from you guys. DCR, where are they? Where are they, Bridget Dean? I spoke to you, Miss Venezuela, who said you'd help me with my housing, and you have done nothing for me. Mr. Harris, you have continuously took us off Commerce Circle in Lathrop, and you guys have given us nothing. Nothing. Have you been on the 211 website? They give you nothing. There's nowhere for us to go. And I've been doing this with you guys since 2009. Remember 7th Street when you guys came down there and gave us motels and they kicked our doors in? And took us to jail? Do you remember that? I do. I've been in every freaking suite that you guys have put out there on the levee in the trees with everybody. And then I tried to do good and now you're going to take my trailer? I can't get a job. Do you see my hands? I washed them before I got here. That is weatherized hands. Would you like me to serve your food like that? Would you? No, and I've been doing this with you guys since 2009. Once again, I have a Section 8 voucher that requires me to have 2 years worth of rental history, and I have none. You guys don't even have people that accept your Section 8 voucher.
That's right.
Hey, what's up? I'm Codester.
Our Codester. Okay, yeah, thank you. Got it. Really quick before we start the clock on Codester, I just want to remind folks to make your comments to the whole council, not to Councilmember Valenzuela or any particular member.
No, you don't get to dictate how we speak.
We want to address our votes to individual though, right?
When settlers first came here to California, they considered the land to be free because the people that had been living here for thousands of years were not Americans and didn't have a concept of land as property. The natives could camp wherever they wanted. Now, all the land is divided up into property. It's all owned by someone, and the people who don't own any land are restricted from camping. People that don't own land instead get to pay rent with ever-increasing fees in perpetuity, and they never get to own anything for it, even though their investment is eventually much larger than what the owner originally paid for it. And if the rent payments stop, then the renter is homeless, which is increasingly illegal. People can't be allowed to camp for free because then there would be less incentive to pay rent, which would lower the price they could charge, which would make their property less valuable because it wouldn't be generating as much money. Have you heard of John Sutter, the founding father of SAC? He received the land around here for free with the promise to build a fort and colonize it for European types. He then enslaved the Maidu and Miwok people and put them to work on his plantation. They were beaten or executed for refusing. They were fed out of troughs like livestock, and their children were given away as gifts or to pay off debts. All because they didn't believe the land could be owned and they should be able to camp for free. Sutter was the original Sac City Council, and this can't pay exorbitant rent. Sweeping Camp Resolution is a continuation of this policy of genocide to benefit the wealthy landowners.
Jackson Yoder. We're not even halfway through November and temperatures are already plummeting into the 30s. While many of you will be sitting comfortably in your homes next Thursday celebrating a holiday that's all about violence and forced relocation, the community will be fighting for their lives not to freeze to death. just like they did last year, and the year before that, and the year before that. It's difficult to estimate how many communities you have flippantly swept, especially in the coldest and hottest parts of the year, with absolutely no financial or material compensation for those that you've harmed. Is it blatant ignorance? Is it woefully misguided good intent? Is it a blood hatred for your own neighbors? Whatever reason you believe you have for constantly humiliating, maiming, and killing our community members does not matter. We all know that you hate homeless folks with every bone in your body. There are people on this council that are lauded for being supposed advocates for the homeless and for better mental health care. But if you really cared at all, you wouldn't have done everything in your power to crush rent control at both the local and statewide level. You wouldn't have supported the criminalization of homelessness through Measure O, using your own privilege to modify the mortifying practice of sweeps. If you really did care at all about these people, about these issues, then you would invest the time, money, and resources into harm reduction programs, supporting renters, and meeting the needs of some of the most vulnerable yet resilient members of our community. In that spirit, we demand that you recognize the autonomy and right to life of the members of Camp Resolution. We can't to becoming homeless. Maybe city policy played a role, maybe it didn't. But what you can change is how you choose to treat these individuals now. Tomorrow, Camp Resolution is scheduled to be swept, leaving these folks to fend for themselves against the harsh weather and a bureaucratic and punitive infrastructure that does not care about their well-being. You have the opportunity to show compassion to these people and begin supporting them and the countless other members of Sacramento's homeless community in material ways. We came here today to make our voices heard and draw a line in the sand. Stop the food, support rent control, find a harm reduction program. We have had enough of supporting corporate eyesores like the Broadway Starbucks while you spurn your own community. Do not sweep Camp Resolution and start supporting homeless Sacramentans today.
I am Sarah Rywich, and I would like you to just note the passion in this crowd. And we're residents of Sacramento in just the same way as all the folks at Camp Resolution are. They are our neighbors. They are a part of our community. I am a longtime resident of Sacramento. I moved here when I was about 10. And I moved away after college, but recently come back, and I live in District 5. Governor Newsom's office just reported that we in California are about to become the 4th largest economy in the entire world, surpassing Germany, a friggin' country. And I said friggin', not, so don't dock me for that. And you're telling me that we can't take care of our community members? These are our community members. By the way, I was just at Camp Resolution last Thursday. We had an open mic. I'm a musician. And you can't believe how incredibly skilled a lot of the folks are out there. Sharon built the stage along with some other people single-handedly in like 5 minutes. Did I need anything? Sharon was there. A bunch of other people jumped up on stage. There was a very talented fiddler who was unbelievable, and I'm going to ask her to play on my record, my next record. These are people who could be our aunts, our uncles. They could be my mother. They could be my sisters. And you all are just sitting up there, and this is all, you know, procedural and decorum, and to you it doesn't really mean anything. It's obvious. Promises were made. And then they were revoked. And people at Camp Resolution are just trying to survive. They're trying to exist. If you sweep them tomorrow, you are putting them one step closer to death. Know that when you sleep in your warm bed tonight. And I will tell you this, and don't you interrupt me when I'm about to finish. Don't you interrupt me. If you cannot take care of these community members, because it's the right thing to do in your job, know that we will be coming for you!
are unnecessarily cruel at best and unconstitutional at worst. You knew about the issues there, got a variance, spent nearly $1 million of our tax dollars without checking on programming costs, and then after decided it's too much. Talk about the failures of bureaucracy and action. Meanwhile, the people you displaced have experienced trauma. Now some of them have moved back, largely using it the way it was intended with the variance. And they are living there with no issue and costing you nothing aside from your police drone pilot overtime as he hovers over a community. You're the bad guys here, as evidenced by the council member for this district, who has active federal investigations into him, who is actively hostile to low-income or even just affordable housing in his district. There is no way that doesn't transfer to unhoused folks. So leave them alone or legislate them out of existence as you've been trying these many years after Boise. Finding every loophole it allowed to redefine infrastructure or set aside housing only for the acceptable and housed that Angelique deems worthy. Also not the hard ones, not the folks with trauma who have had to resort to crime to survive or have ended up with addiction to address their trauma because our government has failed to help them with their Not the unacceptable ones, the ones who need our help the most. No, you throw them away because it's too hard. That isn't community, it's gross. Leave the site open for the uses originally specified in the variance. Folks are safer, they are using it the way they are now, and it isn't costing you anything. Leave them alone, let them govern themselves and their matters. They'll let you know what is needed. Follow their lead. I would expect no one's on the homeless industrial complex who largely waste money on administrative costs over the folks most in need. And it won't be long before a lawsuit comes after over your practice over the unconstitutional practice of leasing properties for pennies on the dollar, and is clearly meant to subvert our constitutional, cruel, and unusual amendment. And you should all do some serious soul searching if you view that, the subversion of the Constitution, as a meaningful way of engaging with the constituents in your area who need the most help, let alone of being an American. You disgust me.